So I wanted to do a video on chain mortisers today. It's a topic that comes up fairly often in a lot of timber framing groups and forestry forum and so on. I've got two chain mortisers in front of me for those of you that can count. Both of them are Makitas for the sharp eyes among the crowd there. The one on the right is a 7100B. The one on the left is a 7104. Another common brand you'll run into is Hitachi. It's very similar to this 7100B model. So a little difference, obviously, since it's a different manufacturer, but the basic function is the same as this one. A couple of other brands out there, Swiss Pro, you'll see those, as well as Mafels. Those are going to be different in that they're a cross grain model of chain mortiser, meaning that instead of cutting with the grain like this, the chain is actually going to cut cross grain. So the chain is going to be 90-degree twisted from what that is. Those are far more expensive, but they're excellent if you're doing a lot of, if you're going through and cutting a lot of mortises, those generally are going to be your better options. But keep in mind they're going to be 2 to 3 times the price of these. Now, key difference, the 7100B here, this just goes straight up and down. That's it. As you see here, it's got a safety. Let that go, and that's it. It's just going to plunge cut. If I go over here to the 7104, this one, key difference, it will obviously do a plunge cut, but once I do my first cut, I can actually angle this, and there's a bolt here you can adjust so that you can adjust how far it goes. See, it'll go a little further over. But that allows me to make more than one cut without having to adjust the location of my mortiser. All right, so if I do a cut, I'm going to have to slide that down, clamp it, and then go back and do the next cut. Whereas with this one, I have to do my cut, come up, slide it over, do my next cut. And each time you have to move it over, you're going to have to check your alignment and everything else. All right, just to make sure you're not getting outside of your markings. I'm not going to do a speed test on these. It wouldn't be fair. The chains on both of these have been used, so it's not a fair comparison to see if one's faster than the other, because really it's going to come down to the chain sharpness and if you've got a much older machine, it might be a little bit slower, but in general, that chain is going to be the biggest impact. So I'm not going to try to fool you into thinking one's better than the other just due to the chain there, but I will show you the basic function. Now, one other thing I'll go through and mention is there's a lot of concern people have over the fact that these were manufactured for use in China, or Japan, Jesus. Everything's made in China now, but luckily these are made for the Japanese market. So what that means is these are made for 100 to 110 volts, 50 to 60 hertz. Some people get very concerned about the fact inside of your house you're going to get 120 volts, 60 hertz. So some people are concerned and think they need to go through and use some sort of a, as far as a transformer or some other device, to get these on the proper circuitry to where you're not going to burn them out. Let me go ahead and just save that for you. You're not going to hurt these machines. Going from 100 to a 100 to 110 volt range, going up to 120 is not going to kill these machines. They will run just fine on 120 volts. Don't spend the money on it. Don't go through and do anything like that. All right, to prove it, I'll show you in a moment. I've been running these machines. I've got countless hours on this one already. This one's my new one, so I've just tested it just to make sure it worked when I got it, but that's it. But they'll run for hours and hours. Okay, so if you're in the market for one, don't get scared off by that. Okay, let me go ahead and get this going. Plugged into my house. Got my thumb switch here. I'm going to move it back a little more center. Works just fine. Not going to do a full plunge cut there, just not going to bore you to death watching that. Go over to this one, my 7104. The switch is on the handle. Runs just fine. These things will last for hours. You can run them off a generator. They don't have sensitive electronics in them like a lot of tools do now. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can plug these in and go. So don't hesitate if you're in the market for one and it fits your budget. This will, the one on my right, the 7100B there, will improve. It's going to make your life a lot easier by going through and doing these cuts much faster. So if you're in the market and you got the budget for it, go ahead and get one. Don't be scared off by the voltage difference or the hertz difference or anything like that. They will run just fine. This one is much more expensive. I got this one for about $400 shipped. I think it was about $420 shipped from Japan. The one on my left here was significantly more expensive, but it's going to be a time saver for me. All right, so it's going to allow me to do more cuts without having to change positions. So that's going to give me a lot more flexibility. That's why I elected to get it when I saw such a deal on it. For those of you guys looking at a lot of production work, I'd look at the Swiss Pros, the Mafels. I mean, simply put, the chain width, it's going to do a cross cut. When you do a plunge cut on it, they have two different chain thicknesses or widths, 1.5 inches for an 1.5 inch mortise and a 2 inch for a 2 inch mortise. All you have to do after that is just clean up on it. So they're outstanding machines. They are just significantly more expensive, and I don't do enough work of as far as timber framing to justify 3 times the cost of what these two do. These save me enough time for what I'm doing now. Thank you guys. Just wanted to show that. Don't be scared off by the money. Don't be scared off by the voltage. If it's in your budget, get it. It's well worth the money. Thanks again.